Nick Watson.
And I'm Bree Watson.
You certainly are.
I am.
Well, Bree, we're constant struggling again.
Yes. How have you been? Well, struggling.
Oh my god, getting anything done right now. Like at the end of a workday, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I'm quite tired.
Well, in the past, when I had work days,
yes,
I would get quite tired.
Right? What's with that?
Especially like now, the weather is like darker when you get home. Well, maybe not when you get home. You get home pretty early.
Well, by getting home, do you mean turn from the dining room table where I do my daily work?
Oh, that's right. How often are you?
3 days.
Oh, that's not bad.
Per week, yeah.
That you
it's
work
great.
from home instead of. Yeah.
It's a good setup.
Yeah.
PJ working is the way of the present.
But so you're still tired though after all that.
Yeah, and then I get like the tsunami of the kids getting home from school.
Right.
I get maybe a 3-minute break.
Right.
By the time I'm done and Mac walks in the door.
Yikes.
Yeah.
What would you be working on if you had
well,
money? What energy and time?
What? Oh, I would start getting ready for my NaNoWriMo.
What? November.
Yeah, National Novel Writing Month.
Which is
November.
Right.
Yeah, so I want to do one of those. So I'm just kind of brainstorming this month.
Okay.
I'm going to plot next month, and then November just write.
National
Novel
Writing
Month. There you go.
Okay.
NaNoWriMo.
I always saw it and I was like, what does that mean?
It's
now
some kind
I
of delicious
know.
chocolate bar from out west.
West. Nanaimo. I want to partake in that
Bree's
competition.
Like, I'll do the Nanaimo challenge. So yeah, that's what I got going on, and I've handed out my book for editing.
Great, but you don't have to do anything about that. You just have to wait for people to finish.
Yeah.
Reading.
So I got feedback for chapter 1.
Positive feedback.
Yes.
Productive feedback.
Yes.
From who?
I guess I could update this bit. I went to the Mississauga Writers Group. Last Saturday.
Well, that's fun. So it's just a bunch of Mississauga writers.
Yeah, it is.
Where do you meet?
In a cave, and you have to know the secret password to get in.
Is it Mississauga Writers Group?
Yeah, it's a Facebook invite thingy.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it's at a community center.
Oh, nice.
So that was good, and interesting feedbacks about my tense. Like
yes.
It's third person.
Maybe there were too many tense.
It's not tense enough for the opening chapter, so I'm gonna ratchet up the tension on that one. And I gotta watch around from don't bounce around from characters' heads.
Oh.
There was one character bounce where it should have been more clear. So,
whose head am I in right now?
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, that one's easy to fix.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my tenses. I thought it was okay. I kept everything present tense, because I'm kind of wanting to read like an action story, kind of.
This is happening right now.
Yeah. So I gotta watch around. My narrator has to focus in a bit more on the story.
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Dina said she's been enjoying it.
Which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yay.
Yay.
Can't wait for that feedback. And that's my update.
Great.
How about you, Bree?
I just shot a commercial. Yay!
Was that what that picture was on the Facebook?
Yeah.
Of you looking like a awesome 80s news anchor lady?
Yes! I'm so glad you said that, because that's exactly what they were going for.
You were like Ron S. Burgundy.
I loved it. It was so good. I can't really talk too much about what it was for or anything like that, but it was very 80s, and it was so much fun, and it was, it's going to be...
Is it for a project that's maybe 30 seconds long?
What? No.
Oh, I thought it was a commercial.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, some of them are shorter now, though, with the internets and whatnot.
Oh, like the little 15-second?
And 10 seconds, even 5 seconds.
What a world we live in.
Anyway, I don't know what it's going to be, but it was fun to shoot.
All right.
A real commercial.
Did they pay you in Canadian dollars for this?
They will.
Okay.
But, yes.
All right. Yay!
Yeah, it was fun. I want to do it. I want to play dress up all the time.
Yeah, good experience all around.
For sure.
Where'd you guys shoot? Toronto?
At the Studio City in Toronto.
Okay.
Even saying that sounds cool.
So right on the lake?
On the lakeshore
right.
There, yeah.
Oh.
That was cool.
Yay, Brie.
Yay, commercials. And then, other than that, it's just lots of, I don't know, lots of teaching. I'm teaching stand-up this term, which is cool.
Oh, wait, where? At Second City?
Second City, yeah. So that's interesting. It's fun so far. It's so weird because, like, improv...
It's like, you know how we've been building community and really picking up each other? Yeah, don't do that at all.
None of that. It's just so, in like stand-up, everybody has such a unique style. And I guess eventually that happens in improv, but because you're working together, like, you have to start from the same spot. Whereas stand-up, it's like, yeah, you could start, I mean, I guess you're learning the same stuff, but your style is always your style, so it's always going to be a little bit like, okay, well, I mean, you could write that. You know?
Yep.
Let's see what else. Just improving and sketches. I've got a photo shoot for our sketch comedy show that we've been working on, the Utilidors, so that's coming up soon.
You guys are doing a fancy photo shoot?
Yeah.
Oh.
We have to do a fancy photo shoot. And which reminds me, I have to put black dye spray paint on my point shoes. Yay.
Oh. Okay.
It'll
tap
make
dancing?
sense.
Okay.
Point shoes.
Yeah.
Ballet.
Ballet. Okay.
Yes.
Ballet.
Yes. What else? I don't know. Just a bunch of improv, bunch of all kinds of stuff.
All right.
Yeah. This episode coming up is pretty fun.
I was gonna say maybe we should talk about what we're gonna hear.
Yeah, it's our episode with Grace Smith, who's an improviser and a doctor, a PhD.
Yep.
That's crazy.
I think our first doctor on the show.
Yeah, I don't think we've had any doctors on here.
Which is good because you suffered that massive coronary halfway through the
episode. If she hadn't been there, what would have happened? I'm going to a doctor's wedding this weekend. 2 doctors. Anyway,
so many doctors. Too many doctors.
Too many doctors. Let's write a TV show called Too Many Doctors. No, this episode is great. We hear a lot about Grace's experience with the theater, with academia.
Learning about the theater.
And then doing the theater.
And then theatering.
Yeah. I think you'll enjoy it. Take a listen, and
we'll talk to you later.
Welcome, Grace Smith, to our podcast. Yeah.
To the audience.
Yeah, exactly.
Golf clapping.
Yeah.
Everyone does a little play.
Everyone let us know you're here.
No. We don't want you to draw attention to me. Grace, how are you?
I'm excellent. Feeling good. Looking good. Hydrated.
No, perfect. Can't go wrong. I'm already...
Those are all the good things that people can do these days.
It's all
the best you can hope for.
It's true.
It really is.
I'm going to say I'm already mad at myself because I was like, I'm not going to forget to take a photo. As soon as I get in, I'm going to take a photo. And I didn't do that.
Well, we can literally
But now we're recording. I feel bad.
That's even better, though.
The power of technology.
Oh, for crying out loud. Okay, you're going to enjoy this, listener. This wonderful... Oh, here we go.
There we go. While we're doing it.
Perfect.
Wonderful. That was beautiful audio.
And then when I edit it, it'll make it sound like we did it so quickly.
Oh, like we're professional.
It'll be like, oh, let's do it, Snap. Here we are. We're talking to Grace. Grace.
Yeah.
Grace.
It was a one-take selfie. I just want to point that out.
How many takes does it usually take you?
I take
many
20 to 30.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I want to catch a good natural moments in my selfies.
Right. You don't want it to look too forced, but
no. And I
do it 50 times.
I forget to look at the camera most of the time. On the 40th one, I will be like,
Grace.
"Oh, the camera's there."
Right.
It's the nature of the medium. That's right.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, Grace, tell us a bit about yourself and your art.
Yeah.
Your graceness. And your grace.
Your grace. Oh, let me tell you, in school, when you were a clumsy teenager, having the name Grace could be used against you a whole lot.
Oh, no.
A whole lot. Teachers love to make a pun to punish you.
To punish you?
We won't do better than this. The podcast's over now.
It's all downhill from here.
What would you like to know?
You're an actor, you're a comedian, an improviser, and so much more.
So much
writer,
more.
Of course.
I bet if I did less of those, I would be better at them. But instead, I like to do everything that's interesting.
Yeah, we need well-rounded performers. You know,
yeah.
But it just proves you're not lazy, like those other
omni-jobbers.
Yeah, exactly.
People who only act, snore.
Exactly.
Get out of here.
Nothing.
You're never gonna win a Slashy that way.
Honestly,
no, but they'll win other awards. I don't know what
that
that is.
I think it was from Zoolander. Zoolander. It was like an actor slash model.
Oh.
Yes. But everyone kind of looked down on those.
They did. Well, he didn't. And he worked on Blue Steel.
Okay.
Welcome to the Zoocast.
welcome to the
Zoolander fan appreciation pod.
All right.
I love it. No, okay, we can start. Well, okay. Did you do acting and stuff when you were a kid growing up? And you were talking about teachers and being clumsy. Did that translate to your activities in school?
Yeah, I confounded my mother because I was the most quiet, shy child. Like, I was uncomfortably so. Like, once I got locked on the school bus overnight because I was so quiet. Not overnight.
Okay.
That somebody fortunately saw me, but I would have been overnight if no one had been around. Because I was so quiet and I so didn't want to bother anyone and I didn't want to cause a fuss. I was always trying to be so good. So one time the bus driver forgot I was on the bus, went past my house, and I was like, I won't say. I'm sure he knows. I'm sure he's an adult. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And as he got farther and farther away, I'm like, there's any moment now he'll realize I'm here. I don't want to cause a fuss. And then at a certain point, you're like, well, now it's embarrassing to say anything. I am 5 years old as I'm thinking all this. So got locked on the bus. And fortunately, after he left, another bus driver parked their bus next to that one.
Oh my God.
And noticed me on the bus and was like, oh man, someone's getting fired. And so then
I never saw that bus driver again.
No, he kept his job. It was wild. You wouldn't today.
No.
But back then no one cared about kids.
Oh,
Yeah.
God,
Not like today.
No.
You'll walk yourself home. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I was a latchkey kid. But yeah, so I got dropped off. Is that a latchkey kid?
Yeah.
What's a latchkey kid?
Yeah. That's not kind of us, but Mom worked at school, so.
Oh, so somebody.
Yeah,
who's
let
not,
yourself in.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha,
You have a little key, like you have a little key on a necklace around your neck,
and
and
you're
you
like, I get home.
because you get home before your parents.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But so I got dropped off several hours late that night. My mom was freaking out.
Aww.
And I got sent to a child therapist after that for like how to get her to, like, we need her to at least speak up if she is in danger.
Right.
So I was that that painfly shy.
Oh, so people did care about kids then. That's good.
I mean, they didn't like help, but they tried. But then every time my mom would take me to like kids theater or something like that, I would change completely. I would get on that stage.
Right.
Like, they would ask for a volunteer, be like, anyone want to volunteer? The other kids would raise their hands, and I would just already be halfway on stage, running. My mom would like turn to where I'd just been sitting and just be like, "You were gone." Like you were.
Puff of smoke.
Yeah, it's a little grace-shaped puff of smoke already on stage, and she was like confounded because she was like, "This makes absolutely no sense to who you are in the rest of your life," but sort of everyone realized that that was a good outlet for me, and I've always liked like theater and performing because I felt like the thing I was lacking in the rest of my life were like rules around when I was allowed to talk and when I wasn't. Whereas on stage, it's like, oh, you're on stage, it's your turn to talk. Everyone else has to shut up. They're the audience. And you have a nice little piece of paper that says what you're supposed to say. So I found it quite, like, that was my chance to be the center of attention because I never got to be the rest of the time.
Are you from a big family?
No, I have one younger sister.
Oh, okay.
And that's it. I don't know where, I don't know. I'm a mystery. I'm an enigma. Who knows? If the child psychologist I'd gone to had been good at their job, they might have figured out where this had come from, but I still don't know.
I'm so sorry. I just work at a Kmart. I'm not actually...
Yeah, I'm very nice and I listen, but I'm not qualified.
I can't tell you what's going on. That's interesting.
Yeah, but the problem is, I grew up in Halifax, and there's not a ton of opportunities there to take acting classes, to do theater. There's no such thing as like an arts high school there.
Right.
I thought that was made up for the movie Fame. It's like, what a fun fictional world. And so
I think maybe it's changed. I think maybe there's more in Halifax now than there certainly.
There's got to be a Fringe or some kind of show.
There's
definitely a Fringe.
The Fringe is happening right now. It got this will place the recording of this podcast in a date and time. A bunch of shows just got canceled because the Hurricane Dorian went through. And I did like there's opportunities. There's just not as many as in Toronto, and my parents didn't have a ton of money, so they couldn't send me to super expensive theater camp. So I sort of didn't get into it in a huge way until high school. where I tried out for some, I don't even remember, I think my aunt heard about this on the radio. CBC, somebody at CBC was doing an audition for like a bunch of teens to be in a film, and they would help write the film and then, or be in the development of the film. So I got picked for that and ended up in this really intense, like fun, but still not entirely sure what it was, like process of creating a short film about teenagers that was supposed to last one summer and ended up lasting like 3 years.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
The film did eventually come out. I was almost entirely cut out of it.
Oh.
But it was my first taste of like acting that wasn't just like get up on stage, say some lines, it's a school play, but like with a director who was more serious about it.
I hope you got paid for that.
I did.
Good.
I got paid for the shoot. I didn't get paid for those other 3 years. Oh no, maybe she'll hear this. But I got a lot of free acting classes and stuff like that. So
okay.
But
the CBC screwing people over.
Hey, the news comes out. Grace Smith makes wild accusations against CBC.
Nah, they don't. They can't afford legal action.
Absolutely not.
And our podcast is super lawyer
Yeah,
doc,
yeah.
so it's all good.
Yeah, we got you covered.
I also my high school did school musicals a lot, but I'm not a musical person, so I
Who is? Am I right?
What is that? I don't get it. It's pure black magic. I don't understand rhythm.
Why are these people singing? They just tried to buy musical instruments from a fraudster.
I was complaining to my boyfriend about how you can understand like music time. I was like, he was like, you know, there's like 5/4 and there's 4/4 and there's. I was like, but how do you know when to start counting the 4 and when it's a new 4 and when it's a 5 and not a 4 because you're just counting. And he was like, do you want the actual answer to that? And I was like, no, I want to complain.
Don't try this with me. Oh, that's interesting. So you didn't take music. You didn't take music, but you took act. But did you do any of the musicals?
I would get to be in the chorus because
Right.
that's where they put the people who can't sing, you know, in the purely singing part.
You'll
God,
drown you out with the rest of them. Yeah.
But I was real good at shoving my way to the front of the crowd. My mom did comment on one of them. She was like, wow, you were always at the front. Good job, sweetie. And I would always manage to be like, if they were like, oh, we need someone to say this one line, I'd be like, me, I may, please. But yeah, so that it was a lot of that, and then taking part in this like CBC funded thing.
That's interesting. The CBC thing that it lasted 3 years to like follow you as you like grew up, came of age, or is that sort of the point of it, or
kind of like it ended up being about the sort of turning point between like high school and university, which was what a lot of us, when we started this development process, were in that spot or about to be in that spot. And then by the time we filmed it, we all kind of had moved past that. So I think she like the director really wanted to get it filmed before we were all way too old to be in that spot. So even though I didn't end up getting like a huge portion of screen time or anything in that, it was still a good taste of
you like on-screen
acting, and also like again, just actor training that was a bit more about vulnerability and a bit more about breaking through barriers. I don't think I was ready at that time to have that kind of training. I think I resisted a lot. I wasn't like, I think a lot of people will, in their actor training, will face when they come across their own limitation or emotional barrier, are like a little afraid but like excited to break through. That's kind of where I am now. At the time I was like, no, please let me keep this barrier up. It's the only thing that's keeping me safe. So I was really like resisting a lot of the training I was getting, and I don't think I was ready for it yet. Which, you know, not everyone's ready for.
Sure. Were your parents like big, like encouraging you to do the arts and performing and stuff, or did they want you to do so? This is a leading question. Were they? I'll just leave it there. Did they encourage you to act and stuff?
I think they encouraged us to follow our interests.
Right.
My mom is a big. She's a big reader. She loves literature. She loves reading. We both love books and movies. But she and my dad are both like, they don't love being in front of people, so they're not. Any encouragement came purely from me being like, I want to do this. Right. But they were supportive in terms of like making sure I got to these meetings for the CBC project, making sure I got what I needed, and we generally would just follow my lead. I did every once in a while beg them to be like stage parents and take me to a ton of commercial auditions, and they were like, absolutely not. That sounds miserable.
Right.
So they were also very like, we want you to be a kid. And
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. At the time, I was furious.
Right.
But now I'm
I
like,
want to sell toothpaste.
Yeah. I was a beautiful baby. I could have been in toothpaste commercials. But now I'm like, no, that's pretty reasonable. And again, I don't think I was a mature enough teenager to have handled that if they tried to. So I think they knew what they were doing. And then when I got to university, I do think my dad wanted me to take something more practical than theater. English.
The most practical degree there is, damn it.
Well, that's what you studied.
I know.
And you're for sure working in English fields.
Well, I speak it all the time.
Use it every day of my life.
Do.
Well, I ended up doing a double English theater major. That kind of like, again, English seemed more legitimate to my dad, so that sort of satisfied him that I could do both. And which is wild because anything you can apply to with a theater BA or an English BA you can apply to with a theater BA, but like if like you could go to law school with both of them, you can go to grad school with both of them.
Yeah. Actually, law school would be pretty good.
Yeah, I didn't do that either, but I could.
My lord, I object.
So where did you go to university? Still in the East Coast?
Yeah, I went to Dalhousie University,
nice.
Which I went for theater studies, not the acting program. I wanted a more kind of broader theater education, and also didn't get into the acting program. But I ended up having a really great time there. I managed to get in at just a point in time in which there was an amazing set of professors.
Oh, cool.
There was a lot of kind of old school ones who were great, who were like teaching their maybe last year, and a lot of really new ones coming in that were really eager. And
that's a good mix of like, I don't care anymore, and we're so eager to please.
Yeah. Maybe they're like, it's my last year, I've got to give it one last
I'm going to drop the truth on these kids.
Yeah. Here's everything that I wasn't contractually allowed to tell you before.
Where did the cigarette come from?
I conjured it.
Yeah.
My knowledge.
Why do we all have sharing?
And what did you have to? So theater.
Is it critiquing
studies?
theater or?
It's I just want to point out, because this is an audio medium, the motion that Breach has made. Theater studies like hands out like it's in the air.
The theater.
It's in the air. I'm studying it. Here it is in front of me.
The plays, the lights, the everything.
It's all right in the air in front of us. It's an interesting program there. It's a mix of practical and theoretical stuff. So you get a class in dramaturgy, you get a class in playwriting, in directing.
Oh, cool.
And then there's some electives. Like I took one acting class while I was there. There's a lot of history. I wish I'd gotten to learn a bit more technical stuff there, like actual tech, like hanging lights and stuff like that. But you can't get everything from every program. But the practical classes were really lovely.
Which one was your favorite?
Oh no! You know what's funny? The directing class was one that at the time I was like, I didn't love, but now I realize it was actually a lot more helpful than I thought it was. It was like a newer professor. So it was his first year teaching the class. And I think, I've now been that person first year teaching a new class, new to me.
Well, you gotta turn your chair backwards.
First things first.
Okay,
yeah.
Yep.
You have to wear
this wrong.
You have to wear a scarf.
Oh, yes.
Director's
Especially in
scarf?
directors, yeah.
And you have to say elusive sentences that won't mean anything till 10 years later.
You're planting the seed.
But yeah, this, I think, I'm sure he was still trying to figure out what this course wanted to be for him. But I remember he was the first person in all of my theater training so far to teach me that you don't always get things right on the first try and that you should be able to take criticism and try again.
Right.
So we had an assignment where we had to direct a scene, get notes from him, and then redirect it essentially.
Okay.
And I got just reamed out on the first round. Like I got such bad feedback from my class, from him. And, up until that point in schooling, you kind of get one grade and then you move on to the next thing. Right. You don't often get a second try at stuff. Yeah. Which I think is a bummer. I think students could learn that, like, most of the time in real life, you can try again at things. Or you can do multiple drafts of things. So my first instinct was just to run away and be like, well, I guess I'm terrible at directing. But I was also a little out of spite, was like, no, I'm going to prove to him how mature I am by going to him for extra help.
Right.
So out of spite, I took a meeting with him, and then ended up it being so helpful. Like, he really was like, I'm sorry, we were a bit hard on you, but here's how I think you went wrong with this scene. Here's what I think you can do. We talked a lot about how to build tension. And then at the end he said, or maybe in the comments of the final scene, I think he said something like, I like applaud you for not running away from the bad criticism, but actually coming in and really trying to make it better, and you succeeded. And that's
what directors keep trying to do over and over, right?
It's almost like it's built into the medium of theater. Yeah, and that was such for every year I realized how much more useful that lesson was. At the time, I think I was still like a little like, he didn't think I was brilliant right away.
Right.
But that's not, you don't usually learn the most from the people who just like love you immediately.
No, they're not.
It's from getting kicked down and beaten up and dragged through the mud.
It's from getting knocked down and then getting up again.
And you're never going to get me down.
Exactly. And then from drinking the night away.
Oh,
no, pissing the night away.
Oh, we're so close. That's a good bit. Yeah. Nothing like capping off a bit by calling it a good bit.
That's how you know.
That was a good bit.
Yeah. Handshakes. You can't tell that we're not doing it. It's audio.
Very formal. That's interesting. Okay, so directing, and what kind of, I'm curious as to like what kind of things, like they were saying, like how do you direct a director? Like, what were they saying?
Whoa. We ended up all having to be kind of actors for each other and learn about how to direct actors, which some people in the class, including myself, kind of resented, because we were all like, oh, the other cat has made an appearance. A cat! A lot of us were like, we're not actors, we're directors, that's why we're taking this class. We don't want to be actors. And he was like, well, you have to know what actors are going through. Mm-hmm. Again, another thing at the time, I was like, you're incorrect. And now I'm like, he was right.
Womp womp.
Yeah, but it was just a lot of trying stuff out, and then everyone talking about what worked and what didn't, and then like a lot of little lessons on what makes things compelling or tense. Like, I remember he threw a sort of clown exercise at us to teach.
We've been watching a lot of it.
Oh yeah, he just took us into a dark house.
Oh god.
There was a little sailboat floating around.
Oh dear God!
Georgie, run! But like on vulnerability and how to connect with an audience.
Oh, cool.
And
Nick, you probably don't know a lot about clown, but at the core, that's what it is, right? Is really connecting with your audience. That's way more than just like straight comedy, you know?
Yeah, I thought it was all about connecting with yourself, like your deep inner. Hey, buddy.
Oh, I see. Oh,
it's a bit of both. Like, but it's
I didn't know about the connection bit.
Right, because you'll always see, like, I think one thing that freaks people out is that the clown will go, like, into the audience and make very close, like, eye contact and interact.
Oh, I'm out.
Right? But
goodbye forever.
But if it's if it's like a clown, you know, like a birthday clown, like, we don't want to see that. Like, that's terrifying.
No, get out of my face.
But different clown is like, you could have a really cute clown, you know, like a little clown with pigtails. She doesn't have makeup, like, she doesn't have the white makeup on, just like, you know, and she could be very vulnerable. At least I'm talking about my own. This is my own clown. By the way, just saying, my clown very vulnerable.
This is a plug for Bree's clown.
I'm
Next
doing a clown show. No, but you can have very vulnerable clowns, and they're like Ken Hall is such a great example. Watching his improv.
I'm taking his class right now. Actually, early today.
It?
I love it. This is a plug. This is now the Ken Hall fan cast.
I would host that for sure. Yeah.
Oh, I would be on every week. No, it's lovely, and I think I took it to help just like be more present in the moment, which is one of the things in clowning.
Get out of here.
But yeah, it's a lot of I mean, there's so many different types of clown, obviously, but I think in all of them there is an aspect of audience connection and an aspect of failure, and taking what is there in the moment rather than trying to make the moment what you want it to be, which I really love, and something I have struggled with. I think when you're a person with a lot of anxiety,
write that down. We're gonna come back to that.
Wait, the anxiety or the
what do you mean?
There's a lot there.
He writes down whatever Grace just said. But yeah, I think a lot of a lot of times when you have anxiety, your thoughts form into, what does everyone else want from me in this moment? What would a normal person do in this moment? Like somebody says something to you, how would a normal person respond to that? Or as my brain goes, how would a human respond to that? And whereas clown is a lot of
there's no time to think. You can just be that. You have to like wholly immerse yourself in the moment.
There's no what is this supposed to be. There's just what this is.
Right.
And what are you going to do about it? Since your goal is to make the audience laugh.
Right.
That's like the very foundation of improv, isn't it?
It's very
like
close
right
to
at the heart of it.
Yeah. Almost everyone I know who is really good at clown is also really good at improv.
I think clown's different, right? Because you're often, it's just you, right? It's not you and a partner. Your partner's kind of the audience.
Sometimes there's
but you're right. There are sometimes like
but
a clown bit with two people or with more.
But I think the connection is more your pair connected to the audience.
Right.
We're making a lot of statements about clown. I should announce for the first time on this podcast, I'm not an expert in clown.
That's okay.
I did just start, but I like it a lot. I think it's so valuable. That and improv are so valuable for anyone who finds themselves having a hard time being present.
Yes. Being mindful. Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, I like that so much. What else did you write other than anxiety? Okay, well, we could go back to anxiety. I want to go back to anxiety because right now we're on your teleological journey. I want to. I like that word. So we graduate university with our degree in theater studies.
Yes.
And then what? Then what happens?
Well, then I was at a bit of an impasse because I really did want to. I had all these friends graduating who were going into careers in theater, going to try and apply at theater companies and audition for things or pitch projects, apply for grants, etc. And I was so terrified of that. I remember just feeling very certain, like, I can't do that.
Because of the anxiety.
Right. And I'm real bad at just talking myself out of being qualified for things without realizing.
What's that one called? That's the...
Imposter syndrome?
Oh,
yeah.
What did you say? Yeah. You're a white man. You should be able to do anything you want. Okay.
There's no mental health problems in the white men.
No, we're good. As long as no one looks any further into this, it's all good.
Yeah. We're all fine, thank you.
No more questions.
Yeah.
I have a feeling.
Imposter syndrome is a thing I think about a lot.
Okay.
But yeah, I remember also wanting to be in theater, involved in theater, but wanting something more stable. So I went into academia.
Of course. Yay!
Little did I know that by the time I finished my MA and PhD, that it would be a completely different scene. Like, academia's changed so much in those years. It's gone from...
Like, in general or specifically in, like, theater areas?
In general, it's gotten a lot... it's less of a stable career that people can do. I mean, like almost every industry right now, it used to be that you could get a job and keep that job for your adult life.
Right.
And so, like everything, it's become more of a gig economy.
Right.
Throwing around terms like I know what they mean. But
being a professor is just like being an Uber driver nowadays, right?
It's not that. Well, because the thing is, I remember seeing this, one of my professors in undergrad who would teach all these amazing classes, but also direct the shows that the acting students would direct shows outside. And I was like, that seems like a nice life to have your like stable during the year job, but then go do artistic projects in the summer. And
it sounds like he never had time to himself, though. Just working all the time.
Oh my God, yeah. No.
But that might sound nice to some people.
And I also don't think I didn't. At the time, I had so much energy. I was working all the time. I was like early 20s. I was like, yes, I'll be able to do this forever. I'll never be tired. So I was kind of like, I would like to emulate that career. And so did a master's at U of T.
Okay.
In theater. Like it's the right now it's called the Center for Drama, Theater, and Performance Studies. And the master's there, you don't so much specialize in any one thing. Like, you can kind of choose your classes, but it's a more generalized, like, 1-year program.
Okay. And how did you find moving to Toronto?
terrifying.
Ah.
I actually, because I'd lived in Halifax my whole life at that point. I lived outside of my parents' home, like I had an apartment there, but yeah, I never moved to a different province before.
Okay.
And I had a real breakdown. It was hard.
Toronto's huge,
It's
right?
huge.
Big smoke.
Yeah.
the big peach. The big...
Windy
Bacon?
chestnut.
Windy chestnut.
There's a hog town. Yeah, there's
The big
I was like,
hog
ham
town.
town? No, that's
The big ham.
The big ham. Okay, yeah, because that's a huge adjustment. Like Halifax, Toronto. Halifax is it's big, but it's like East Coast big. You know?
Yeah,
it's still
it's
very
the
cozy.
city.
Yeah,
there.
exactly. Yeah.
All my cousins there, when they visited us, they're like, "We're going to the city. There's buses there." It was very exciting. But yeah, I really didn't think I would find it that hard. I was like, a city's a city. I'd been to Toronto before one time, and the first thing I had to get used to was rent is so much more expensive here. Oh,
right.
Could I go back to those rents of 10 years ago? I would.
Yeah.
But I just wasn't. I don't know. I guess I just thought I would be able to find something a little more reasonable. Ended up moving into a basement apartment at college in Bathurst that was more than I could afford, and yet I signed that lease anyway. We've all been there.
So many of us have done that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And immediately got a cat, the cat who has appeared in the background of this recording, little tuxedo fellow. And then proceeded to, I don't know, I think
this one just had like maybe she was dreaming about something because she just went.
Yeah, she'll have little twitches in her sleep.
She just jumped and then went right back to bed. Awesome to explain for a listener.
Audio medium.
Yes, that's okay. Great. All right.
Yeah.
Move to Toronto.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed the master's program, but it was a lot. They expect a lot of you. You're working constantly. I'm also poor. I've just moved to a city where I don't really know anyone. I was somebody I was dating lived here at the time, so that helped. But still, you go from having a whole support system to and to all of a sudden there's no one you just don't have as many people you can call if you're in trouble or if you need to talk or you need help.
Yeah.
And so I all my stress somehow from my this theater MA program somehow went into me becoming convinced that there was mice in my apartment.
Ooh.
There was no evidence that there was. I never once saw a mouse there, but I became quite convinced and started sort of doing all these weird little rituals to try and ward off the mice, like taping off anything that even looked like a hole, even if it was just a scratch in the wall, like knocking before entering rooms. And then just started avoiding the apartment altogether. And it got quite bad before I managed to get into counseling at U of T.
For OCD?
No, I never... Who knows, honestly? It might have just been that they didn't officially diagnose me with that, but it was for... I ended up doing CBT for general anxiety.
I love CBT. Where are you going?
Get a hoodie.
Okay.
It helped a lot.
I'm
offended.
Just talking about mice, I gotta get out of here. Okay, no, that just because the idea of a ritual sounds like something.
I know. I am often curious about whether what that was and why it didn't come up too much in therapy, because I didn't end up going that long. There is the amount of I was cured immediately. No, the amount of free counseling you get being a student there is limited to a certain amount.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah, and I ran through it fairly quickly, but by that point was in kind of fighting shape again.
Okay.
And was fine. I will never live in a basement again. I can't do it.
I understand that.
It's not great.
It's not great. I just and
that's where we put Brie.
It's true. And I was not there very long.
No. There was also house centipedes in that apartment, and they don't exist in Nova Scotia.
Really? Oh, so we're used to them.
Which one
are
are those?
In the basement.
They're
just centipedes.
All right.
Right?
Yeah,
the ones
centipedes.
that come out of the sink and stuff.
They look kind of furry.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
bit.
move like the wind itself.
Cats love them. No.
Yeah, my cat ate a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Thank God. I was on the phone with my mom when the first one appeared to me.
There's a mustache running through my apartment.
I think I yelled, "It's an alien."
Her mom's gonna be, "Oh my God, Grace, what's happening?"
move back immediately.
Is it something that they, like, you say it jokingly, but have your parents been like, come back?
Yes. I think they all thought I was going to be here for a year, do the master's, and then move back.
Right.
But I ended up, I applied for the PhD program after that.
At U of T again.
At U of T again, got into that, so ended up staying. And by the time, a couple years, like, it took fully probably 3 years for me to like Toronto. Now I really like it. I would move, to another big city, but I don't think I could move back to Halifax. It's just too small probably for me.
Gotcha.
For my big city mind.
I need multiple types of shawarma.
Yes. I need 17 Starbucks within a 4-block radius.
I can check which one has the busiest line and go to that one. Speaking of shawarma, Welland has 2 shawarma places now.
What the hell?
I know.
What am I doing in Mississauga? This is dumb.
How many shawarma places are there in Mississauga?
I mean, there's one walking distance from my house.
Okay, so there's one.
And we've just learned of another one. So.
Mississauga is a million, probably.
One of my daughter's best friends, their parents run a shawarma place.
Oh,
so I'm like, well, we're going to go visit your
yeah.
family a lot
We're
more.
going to foster this relationship in a big
Pointing
way.
to Canada, the kid's paying off. We're lousy with shawarma.
Amazing. Okay, so you have a PhD. That's amazing. That's very impressive. Is this our first doctor on the podcast? Dr. Pod!
This is the Doctor Fancast.
We love doctors.
It's wild because it sounds very impressive, and yet a common refrain is that the farther you get into grad school, the more you know that you don't know.
Right.
So you actually, coming back to the imposter syndrome, you actually get less and less confident in the amount of expertise you hold on a subject. The farther you get in, because the more sort of research rigor you learn, the more you realize you're never going to be able to fit everything into this dissertation. It's quite stressful, and you really do, because of that, because you start to learn how much you don't know, you start to really feel like an imposter.
Right.
Because you're trying to present this work to get approved, and you're aware of everything you've had to leave out of it to keep it in a reasonable length, and you're just like, you're aware that everything you've sort of had to make into a neat narrative when it isn't in real life. So,
right.
And it also, most theater training up until that point, you're with people all the time. It's very social.
Oh, yeah, but that you're basically writing a book.
Yeah, you're alone in the library, but working on your own thing.
Yeah.
What was your dissertation about, if you don't mind my asking?
I don't mind. It was on the professionalization of Canadian theater, specifically Ontario theater.
Cool.
It was like I'm a big fan of trying to find like little topics that little topics like theater in Canada.
Right, that little
but sort of little areas of history that haven't been covered as much, and then try to fill them out a bit is one of my I don't love going into like an overcrowded topic, because again, I maybe it's imposter syndrome again. I always feel like I have nothing new to say about this.
I don't want to argue with someone else about what is and what isn't in this department, or whatever.
What the first line of Hamlet's soliloquy means. Like, I think we've got it, to be or not to be. It's easy.
No, but what he really meant was okay.
Yeah, okay. What he meant was communism. We get it. Yawn. But yeah, so you just like, again, you're by yourself a lot, and you kind of become more and more by yourself as the research goes on, because a lot of people in your cohort either finish before you,
right,
if you were me, because I took a very long time to finish, or you just like, again, you want to finish so bad that you kind of start canceling other projects just so you can focus on this.
Gotcha.
But then you start falling into the rabbit holes as well, like getting deeper into stuff.
Well, or you kind of realize you can't, but then you feel guilty for cutting off those, because again, you're like, I'm an imposter for leaving out that whole chunk of stuff, which is important, but I need to finish this chapter.
Right.
And also then the only times you're seeing your committee are for them to critique your work, which again, my committee was lovely, so helpful, but it is hard when the only time you're seeing people is for the pure purpose of them pointing out flaws in your work.
This needs work and this is wrong. And you're like, fuck you, I haven't seen a person in 3 months.
Praise me. And yeah, so you're just like, I worked for like 8 months on this one chapter. And again, I think my committee was more positive than probably a lot of committees are. They were all lovely people, and one of them had just recently finished his PhD. Okay. But again, it is their job to point out holes in it. Yeah. And so you're just like, I guess I'll go off and work on this chapter for 8 more months. Other people I know have jobs and careers now.
That's overrated, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I mean, but I didn't so I learned through doing that I don't want to be in academia, because over the course of doing that,
it's hell.
It is. I mean, it's so weird and loosey-goosey, but also like strict at the same time, like when you're actually working in the universities.
Right.
So you're, again, fostering the imposter syndrome. You're always sort of like, am I about to make a mistake? Like, am I about, I'm not qualified to be teaching this play to these kids, 18-year-olds, small children, and also, what was I going to say? Also, as just a job that you can do to pay the bills, it has gotten worse. Like, most people are really, rather than getting tenured positions.
Were you getting paid to do your PhD?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
For most of it. The last year, I, again, had taken too long, so then had to pay tuition to do my last year, which I only realized a week before tuition was due. Great. Thank God for the bank. So most people now who have careers in academia and have started recently are putting together a bunch of like little contract positions. Okay. And those don't pay as much as a tenure track class. So like which sucks, because these students are paying more tuition than they used to, and being taught by people who are being paid much less, who don't have offices, who are living out of their cars, basically.
That's capitalism, baby.
That's late stage capitalism. Am I right? Brutal. Yeah. So I don't want to work this hard and have this unstable a life for a thing that I don't even know if I like anymore. Right. So I finished it, because I'm a completist. I like to finish things I've started. And then just immediately fucked right up.
Yes. Just set your diploma on fire.
Yes. I haven't picked up my diploma yet. It's still at the university. Every once in a while they'll email me being like,
it's absorbing more knowledge as you...
Yeah.
That's how this works.
It's slowly eaten several desks. Give me
your knowledge.
Yeah, it's pulsing now. It's spoken a few words.
Put on several Beckett plays.
But it did teach me, because I like to look on the bright side of things if I can. The whole process did teach me a few things, which is that, the reason I rushed into doing the PhD rather than taking a year off to think about it was, I think I just, really wanted to feel like I'm a very young person to be getting her PhD, and that makes me feel, smart and good.
Anxiety.
Yes.
Right?
And that idea that, it's not.
This is what people will think of me, right? It's what this is how I want to be.
Yeah, and just it's not enough to achieve, but to achieve sooner and better than other people.
You really ought to try being a dude.
You understand? We have to work so much harder.
Oh, just don't. Have you tried doing that? Have you tried having a penis?
What I wouldn't give for the confidence of a mediocre white man.
Throw out an opinion from time to time, and don't back it up with any facts or figures.
I'm gonna make a Twitter account. Just a male avatar, and see how many more likes my tweets get.
Well, you don't get tweets,
You don't get likes, but you don't get hassled at all.
No.
This guy probably knows what he's talking about.
Oh, he's a guy.
Yeah, I bet that opinion's pretty sound. Now to
retweet us, he must have done his research.
Now to not check anything.
This guy said that. Anyway,
we could all do our man impressions all day.
Nick's been doing one his whole life.
Great.
Okay, so when you left, what did you pursue? What did you go for?
Well, I was saying the two things I learned that helped me with that was I learned that to stop trying to do things just because I felt like it was going to make me feel like I'd achieved something.
Right.
If anything, because I was always so paranoid about wanting to achieve stuff quite young because I thought there was expectations on me.
That just adds to the anxiety.
Oh, doesn't
oh my God, I'm getting older. I have to achieve now.
I'm 25 now. I can't go back. And that's what I actually remember thinking second year PhD when I had some doubts. I was like, well, I'm 25 now. I'm in too far.
I'm the age of a normal doctor now. I'm not a young doctor.
And so, but that taught me that that's kind of BS. Like that you really, like you will not make good decisions if you are basing them off that. You will actually just end up kind of wasting time. And I felt like this is in a way like, I don't know, a witch's curse or something placed on me that I had to take up a huge chunk of my 20s on grad school in order to learn that it's okay to start stuff late. Because now I started improv when I was 29. I started, doing sketch like when I was over 30, like I just had to like, you know what, this made me have to be okay with that, because now if I want to start anything new, I'm kind of starting it late, and that's fine.
I think that happens for a lot of women in comedy. I see like women in comedy who are starting pretty late, and I'm just saying that because I also started late. I was 26 before I decided to look at it. Is that we try to do a thing and then it's like, this wasn't for me. And we'll come back to it, but we come to it with a lot of really cool experience, which a lot of like 18-19-year-old bro dudes who are like, I'm gonna do comedy have none of.
What, you're saying they don't have a lot of
zero
rich life experience? I don't believe it.
I know, isn't that insane that an 18-year-old man
I know what I'm talking about.
I've had hardships. One time my mom grounded me.
Exactly.
She found my porn stash.
Which is crazy because we live in a modern age.
And I also feel like a lot of women, it takes that long for them to realize that maybe they're funny. Like I had a lot of male friends in undergrad and remember really internalizing, I'm not the funny one here. Like, they're the funny ones. They're the ones riffing and pulling out references, back when, like, references to TV was the height of comedy.
Yes.
And that's not a thing anymore. Shit.
Oh, my
he takes out his stand-up set for later tonight, just crosses everything out.
I still throw in a lot of Simpsons references as often as possible.
Again, I'm bad at remembering stuff like that, so my humor was never, like, I was never good at that, so to me that meant it didn't mean maybe my humor is different, just like, oh, I'm not funny. And I think that's what a lot of women get, is like, it takes a bit of time to be like, no, maybe I am.
Right.
Maybe I was just hanging out with people who didn't foster that or didn't appreciate my sense of humor.
It's true, like, because, like, even if you're a woman and you try riffing with a group of guys, sometimes it doesn't go over well, right? Yeah. Like, you have to have the right group of guys who aren't assholes to...
Yeah.
Anyway,
they don't make room or... like, they don't have patience. Exactly. Like, if you're like maybe a little more timid, they're not going to like give you space for your joke.
Exactly.
Hold
on, she's going to say something.
Everyone, shut up. Shut up. Betty has a pun.
Come on, Betty. Well, I've forgotten it now.
I'm shy. I don't want to.
That's true. Yeah, for me it was like, I knew I was funny. I just didn't know you could be a comedian.
Oh.
I was just like, that's a thing you could do? What?
People will pay you?
We grew up watching Evening at Improv. Like, what do you mean?
I didn't watch Evening at Improv.
Oh, were you in bed by then?
I was probably
in bed. Sorry.
And also the parents would never have been like, oh, comedy? There's something you should pursue.
Oh, oh, sorry. It was something we weren't allowed to do.
Well, it wasn't even, I was like, I knew people were on Saturday Night Live, but I didn't see any kind of process where like I could pursue something similar, I'm not saying I'm not going to be on Saturday.
No imposter syndrome in this room.
It's so old. But it's still, it's the, whereas you're in theater, so you probably saw like people do all kinds of different, or take all kinds of different theatrical choices.
So many choices, big ones, small. But I do think also there was like a chunk of the process I was also missing. I think that's why I was so scared to, when I got out of undergrad, to go apply for things and apply for grants, and because I didn't even know what that looked like. I think also because I was still outside of class pretty quiet, I didn't manage to form any really strong mentor relationships in undergrad where I could just ask someone, how do you apply for a grant? How do you apply for a residency? I tried sending very sad little emails to all these theater companies when I moved to Toronto, being like, hello, I'm from Halifax. I have a theater degree. Please hire me for anything. And they were all like, no.
We'll eat you up.
I did end up getting a bartender job at Factory Theater. That was the closest. Yeah, that was fun. That kept me from starving for many a month when I first moved to. So thank you, Factory. But yeah, so then when I finished the PhD, the other thing I learned, I kept saying there's two things I learned, was that that I'm an adult and I don't have to explain my choices to people.
Yes.
Because I kept really worrying about leaving academia, that I didn't have a good enough reason to leave, and that I needed to have another thing waiting for me to leave.
Right.
And I remember being like, oh, if I could just get like an audition or something, then I could be like, I'm leaving for this.
Right.
And I had like stuff going on, but I didn't have any huge impressive thing. But I'd started going back to therapy and really like started to love this idea of, again, I'm an adult and I don't owe anyone an explanation. So I went into that into my thesis defense, defended successfully, went out for a drink with everyone. And they were all like, what are you doing next? And I was like, I don't know. Sip wine. And they were all like, cool.
Yeah, we'll see.
And one of them even, and then I chatted a bit about what I had going on, but really did say like, in academia, I have no idea, maybe nothing. And left it at that. Then chatted a bit about, again, what else I had going on in my life. And I remember somebody on my committee said, usually people are really worried after the defense on what they're going to do next. You seem fine. And I was like, oh yeah.
Probably because you're so focused on just getting the thing done.
Yeah, I was so relieved to have it done. But also, again, was suddenly just feeling really confident in it's fine to not know.
Yeah.
Like, I was
to
so
not have all the answers. Yeah.
To not know what I was going to be working for. It took me 7.5 years to finish that PhD. So for 7.5 years, I knew what I was going to be working on the next month because it was always the dissertation.
Yeah.
And I was so excited to be like, I can just start writing a play next month. I could just like audition for a thing and get it and do that. And I hadn't been able, it was like a weight off my shoulders.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, it was, I remember doing a film project, right before I defended, but after I'd submitted the final dissertation. So basically I'm done. It's approved. I just have to do the defense.
Right.
And I was working on this film project and just walking around set between takes, trying to find like a bathroom with my co-star. And I just had this thought of like, all I have to do today is remember my lines for this show and like fuck around with the other actors behind the scenes. That's all I have to do.
That's a good day.
And I was just like, like,
for
this
some
is
people,
beautiful.
That's crazy. Because, to know you don't have to go home and, like, work for 8 hours straight on a...
yeah, and even when you're, like, you don't relax the whole time. Because even if you've, like, planned, like, oh, if I get this much done this week, I'll relax on Saturday. Right. Even if you do, you're like, but I could get ahead.
Yeah, I still have this giant thing looming.
It takes up a lot of, like, storage space in your brain. Like, it's just sitting there.
Yeah. It's hard to get space, I guess, if you're just like, I always have to work on this. Always.
It's like your brain feels like a very old laptop. That it's just like there's all these old files clogging up.
Defrag hard drive of my own brain.
Yeah, and then defending is just like getting a brand new laptop where you're like, oh, there's no old baggage on this. Like everything's fine.
That must feel so good.
I know.
It really does.
So much brain porn now.
I really need to factory reset my brain.
So what did you pursue after that?
Well, that let's see, what was I doing around that? I'd started like around the last year or two of the dissertation. I started taking improv classes.
Cool.
Again, I was just feeling so like lonely, and I was just like, I need people. Like I need.
Where'd you go? Second City?
Second City first. I took an acting class and like on a whim signed up for an improv class.
Okay. Who was your improv teacher?
Carrie Griffin.
Aww.
So like first out of the gate, get an
goodness.
amazing teacher. Yeah. Had so much fun and really did think that was such a whim. I was like, again, I was about to say normal acting, but like dramatic acting was where I was comfortable, and I was sort of like, oh, I'll take a class in that to refresh.
Right.
And then I was like, well, if I'm at Second City, I might as well throw in an improv class. And then ended up enjoying that so much that I took the second level of both, but then just continued on with improv after that.
Did you did the whole improv program, and did you do the conservatory as well?
Yes, I actually, though, I waited until I was done my dissertation to do that.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I want to be able to concentrate on that when I'm doing that.
Yeah, it's a big commitment, like a year. Yeah.
But then also it was funny because I took A to E, and all my friends were auditioning for con. But I thought, no, I'll wait. So I took then a bunch of long form classes and some classes at Social Capital and was just doing shows around them. Finally had submitted my full draft and was like, okay, now I feel ready to audition.
Right.
And then it probably took me 4 times to get into conservatory. But again, there ended up being more kind of like little dissertation threads to clean up. So really it was actually a blessing in disguise.
Well, that's good. It worked out when it was supposed to.
Yeah, but you try telling me that on audition number 3. Yeah, well that's when I realized I have a lot of anxiety around auditioning.
Of course.
It's a stressful time.
Especially improv auditions. Can't we talk about improv auditions
can.
for a hot second?
It's crazy.
They're the worst.
Yeah, you've no control over it.
You can't prepare for it.
You obviously.
There's so much riding on every decision you're making completely off the cuff.
Yes.
Which I know is improv, but still, normally it's like you do a show, a scene is bad, whatever.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Here it's like if you do a scene, it's not great, and you don't get to be in the conservatory. Yeah.
Yeah, and you feel them watching every choice you're making and being like, no, that was bad improv.
Have you read Mick Napier's book?
I have it. I will read it.
Mick Napier has this beautiful, and I feel like I shouldn't. I feel like it's like a secret. It's not a secret. Mick Napier has this beautiful book, and there's a section inside of it about like comedy auditioning, and particularly improv auditions at the Second City, that I'm like, this is a beauty. Read it like before your audition, and then you'll go in with like the right mindset. And it's insane. It like changed the game for me completely. I don't know what that means.
But it means that it really turned things around.
Yeah, like as soon as I started looked at it that way, because there's what we teach you in improv, and like this is how you're supposed to play, and this is how you're supposed to do. You've got to take care of your partner, and yada yada yada. And then there's like improv audition, where the number one priority is, are you making these people laugh? Are you funny? So like there's like
gotta kill.
Yeah, which is a completely different mindset to go out there, because when you're looking after your partner, you're connecting with your partner, you're like, I'm here with you, we're gonna make something beautiful, it's gonna be art, it's gonna be wonderful. And it might not be funny, but it might be like meaningful, right? Because you're there with your partner. Whereas he's saying, go in there, fucking crush with just go, be hilarious.
That's what they're looking for.
They want somebody. Yeah, exactly. Maybe not so much in the conservatory, but I guess if they're in the conservatory,
you need a murderer. Yeah, you gotta hire a murderer.
Yeah, but
we want a literal murderer.
Like anyway. So I thought that was interesting, because I was like, well, I've been following all the rules, like and
but we're looking for someone who breaks the rules.
Oh, isn't that crazy? It's like learn all
improv.
of it, and then in this particular audition, beat everybody else. Yeah, it's all about you.
Now be the best one. Well, what I ran into with them is, again, the old anxiety thing of like being kind of disconnected from your body and almost sort of like out of body sort of thing. So like the first audition I did, I don't remember like it. I don't know what was coming out of my mouth. I felt like I talked so fast, but it felt short.
Become the improv.
And like I think, and my nervous kind of tick is to just talk. So I think if I were to be able to find a video of this audition, I was just going into scenes and just blah, 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 not letting my scene partners get a word in, like making no sense. I'm sure.
Oh, that's crazy.
So then I got rejected and was like, okay, fair.
Did you have your meeting and be like, what happened?
Oh, that one I got some email comments on. Okay. Went back again and had the same thing, and that's when I was like, oh, something's happening here. Like I'm not myself in these auditions.
Interesting,
Because I remember I kept thinking it'd be one thing if I felt like, hey, I did my best and it wasn't good enough yet, I'll keep working. But I just kept leaving, being like, no, that's actually not the improv I normally do. Yeah. And again, I would talk so much, and then I would suddenly realize in the middle of the scene I hadn't been listening for like a minute,
right?
And I was lost because I was out of my body. And so finally, I came up with a little trick that I now do at the start of auditions.
Hot tip, everybody! Listen
up. All right, get ready for this. It's mostly just to like check in with like breathing, with body, brain, and the rest of the room. So the first thing I do is I will just like check in with like different parts of my body. Be like, fingers, yeah, can feel my fingers, wiggle them, wiggle my toes, can feel those, breathe, I can feel that. Okay, I'm aware of my body. Then I will like just try to remember facts that I know.
Right.
Like, because that was the other thing, is I would get into these and be like, I don't remember a single improv lesson I've ever learned. what is a thing so I just try to remember things like random lessons I'd been taught.
Right.
Like, don't ask questions. Like, not to not do them, but just to be like, this. Right. Like, your brain is working.
Object work.
And then I would try to just clock things in the room.
Oh, okay.
Like, oh yeah, that wall is red. There's a piano over there.
Just to sort of to be present.
Yeah. And then the only thing I would do after that is just listen really hard to whoever was talking.
Interesting.
And that was the first time I went into an audition and was like, I did a scene like Grace does a scene.
Yes.
And now if I get rejected, at least I'm being rejected for what I actually do and not some Frankenstein of a shambling zombie of a scene.
Oh, man.
And then I finally, that time, the first time I tried that, I got on the wait list and then got in the next time.
Okay, great.
So
What was your show called?
My show was Welcome to Skid Row. It was a contentious decision. Half of our class wanted to do a very traditional kind of Second City sort of wordplay title.
Right.
And the other half wanted to do like sort of a postmodern, just like, I remember one of the titles. This is my sketch partner, Gabe, I think came up with this one, so hopefully he'll forgive me for making fun of it slightly. But it was like, the title was like 24 chicken nuggets for $3.99. And it got a lot of votes.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, like, that's very funny for that's very funny, but they'll never let us go with it, so I'm not going to vote for it.
Right.
Being a practical sort of person. But then I ended up having a great time in con and making friends, and so I was like, oh, this is nice because I met people in this. That's where I met Ophira.
Right.
So generally hospital never would have happened if I hadn't have been in that class.
Talk to us about Generally Hospital.
Oh, well, you wouldn't know anything about that.
I don't know. I just turned lights on and off.
That's called stage management. But yeah, so Generally Hospital was a show that I co-produced and co-wrote with a bunch of lovely people and co-starred in. That was last year, so 2018 at the Toronto Fringe Festival, and did, I'd say, reasonably well.
You guys did very, very well.
Thank you. That actually, I think that was around the time I defended my thesis, so I think I was feeling pretty good. But yeah, so Ophira and I, so my co-producer on that, went through con, and again, and like, I love so many people in our class, but it was a lot of different comedic stylings competing, and we also had one of the few classes where almost no one dropped out the whole year, so we had fully 11 people for the final show, which is actually pretty rare, I think, at this. Most of the time,
how many we had. We probably had 10. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. I don't know why I always count the posters to see how many people made it through the year. I don't know why, but I find it usually gets down to like 9. Like, know, stuff comes up in life.
Exactly. Life happens.
But we were fully 11. A lot of super different comedic stylings in the class. Some people who are louder than others, as any class. And anyway, I think Ophir and I realized that there were certain, like, of our kinds of scenes that we really wanted to get in the show. You know, we were only going to get so many in, as with any class.
Right.
So we always would sort of tuck away, like, in our show, like, whatever that is one day, we'll put these scenes in it. And then we got into the Fringe lottery, like Ophira did. I have a very good track record of not getting pulled in the Toronto Fringe lottery. I've entered almost every year since I've moved here.
That's like
have never once been picked.
You know, the problem is I did it once and I got in, and then we had to let our spot go because the sketch troupe I was in was.
Thanks, guys.
So I got what's that thing?
Blacklisted.
You know, not even black. I got blacklisted. No, this is the thing where like it's like the euchre thing where it's like you do. Well, pass up a bow or lose for an hour. Yeah,
I was like,
it's a big euchre audience we've got.
This is the euchre fan cast.
Yes. No, so I think the idea is like if you miss out on the opportunity, it's gonna be a long time before you.
It's like, and I have teamed up with 2 other producers where they've gotten picked on their first time entering. The last 2 Fringe shows I did were me. You know, making a sort of, you're not supposed to make this kind of deal, but whatever, with another producer, like, we'll both enter the lottery, and whichever of us gets picked, we'll both go in on that show.
Yeah.
And both times the other producer got picked. So, yeah, so then...
At least, like, no, both of you did, because then that's a lot of money.
Yeah. Then we'd also have to be like, do we both want to do shows, or what? So it worked out. So, yeah, then we put together Generally Hospital, which was a sketch show set entirely in hospital settings. Set in hospital settings.
Yes.
I have a PhD. And a thesaurus. But it was just like, it was a really lovely show to do right after finishing con, because it was so different. It was a smaller group. It was really self-driven, just like different people, and getting to do something that you have a bit more control over the final product.
For sure.
And can make it a bit more, like, make it have a bit more of, like, a structure and theme. Again, you know, con shows are so often just, like, the best shows, the best scenes you came up with, whereas this got to be, like, what do we want the show to say?
Yeah, it was obviously a theme, a strong theme, obviously a lot of personal experiences brought into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we also, like, we talked a lot about what atmosphere we wanted to have in the room, and that, you know, people are going to be sharing stories that are vulnerable, and we want everyone to feel safe doing that. Yeah, so that was lovely. I've also always loved Fringe. I worked for them for 1 year doing front of house management at the Theatre Passe Muraille main venue, which was so much fun. I worked at factories when they're still a venue, but I worked during the summer when they were a venue for Fringe.
Okay.
And have done it a few different years in a row. That was, Generally Hospital was the best it's went so far. There were so many little babies on that show who were like, this is my first Fringe year. Is this how it always is? And I was like, oh, you sweet summer child. No. You weren't there during the dark years of Toronto Fringe.
Oh, man. Yeah, some shows. Yeah.
But that's and also, like, that's how I learned that I do have to avoid reading reviews.
Yeah.
I hate reading reviews while the show's on. When it's over, when a run of a show is done, I will read reviews. Fine.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Conan doesn't read anything, so there you go. You're right up there with Conan.
Well, if it's good enough for Conan, I think it's good enough for Grace.
But you made a solo show this year.
Yes, I did.
How'd the heck go?
Oh, it was so many feelings, many
because
what
is completely different. Like, you go from creating this wonderful ensemble thing, and then it's back to like solo stuff, which you had been doing.
Yeah, how does that start?
Yeah, I know. Well, at least I had a director for this. But yeah, I felt like I found a little bit of I think a coping mechanism that I was using in Generally Hospital was like sort of hiding in the ensemble, like feeling a comfort in like writing scenes, but then not giving myself the biggest role, giving that to somebody else. Like, and again, at the time, really feeling like, oh, this makes sense because the main character in this has to sing or has to do this. I'll give it to the person who can do that.
Right.
And then kind of realized over the run, like, oh, am I doing that though just because I'm scared to be in the spotlight too much? Am I doing, again, is this a defense
you have
mechanism?
to tell the bus driver you're on there.
I know, and I don't want to. He's a nice man. He means well. He didn't mean to lock a small child on board.
I mean, it's part of his job to check the bus.
It sure
at the end of the run.
And he definitely, I wasn't all the way back. He really only had to walk like halfway back.
I'm sure he just used the bathroom.
I'm sure he's going to get a snack and he'll be back.
Maybe after Jeopardy's done, he'll be...
But now you're on the bus ride of life.
And I'm the driver and the passenger, and I always check the bus before I get off. But yeah, I just thought like it would be an interesting way to sort of challenge that coping mechanism is like, I can't hide. I can't.
Here's a bunch of videos.
Talk amongst yourselves. This next part's vulnerable.
Does anyone here sing?
Anyone, please. It sounds like clown now, but it's not. But also, I also had always really wanted to do a Fringe tour. Cool. While working for Fringe, I would meet all these people who just like all summer go around touring to different Fringes. And usually they would do it with a solo show or maybe a duo because it's so much cheaper to travel.
Yeah,
you're not
with a group.
Yeah, you can't make any profit with like a big group unless you're like hitting like sellout runs in every city.
Right.
So I thought, well, one, maybe this is a kind of, you know, limitation I need to test. And also, I've always wanted to do a Fringe tour. I'm done my PhD now. I have a day job where I have enough money to go on a Fringe tour. Like, this is it. Like, I should do it now.
Now's the time to do it.
Yeah, and I thought there was a podcast I listened to years ago that I think it was Aisha Tyler's podcast or something like that, when somebody was talking about trying a thing a bit late in life but finally getting the courage to try it, and they thought, I don't want to be on my deathbed thinking, what if I'd tried?
Right.
And I remember that just hitting me like a ton of, what if I just tried?
Yeah.
And ever since then, almost every time I want to try something and it's a little scary, I'm just like, well, but what if it goes well?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what will happen if
Exactly.
So then and I've been doing some storytelling shows around town and enjoyed those and thought, well, maybe I'll do a kind of storytelling show. And then hired Kat Letwin to be my director,
right.
who definitely kiboshed the idea of me just standing safely behind a microphone and telling stories. Like, no, acting, actual acting, blocking, moving around. Yeah. And I was like, why?
That
no,
sounds like
okay. No, she was like wonderful and really did. Yeah, it saved it from being another long solitary theater experience.
Right.
And also, again, I think I mentioned earlier that in undergrad I was having a hard time forming mentor relationships. And then when I started working with directors, the same thing would happen where I don't think any directors didn't like me, but I would be very polite. I would work very hard, but I would also, again, I think work too hard to sort of maintain professional boundaries. I wouldn't chit chat. I wouldn't try to be friends. I wouldn't invite.
It sounds like you kept them at like a distance of like. It's on like a status distance. Like, well,
you're the director.
We're not friends. I'm not gonna. Yeah,
exactly. I would never dream of using up your precious free time.
Right.
And I realized, like, again, I thought that was just like what you do, and I was like, well, but all these other people are forming these great working relationships with the directors, and I never am. And I thought, again, another way to push this limitation, if I'm the only actor there in the room, kind of have to form a connection with your director.
Have to talk to her.
Yeah, we're gonna have to chit chat a little.
Good thing Kat's like lovely to talk to.
So lovely. In fact, I think the only thing I would change if we ever worked again is probably get a stage manager to keep us on topic. Because we would go. But then sometimes out of those tangents come a good thing to go in the show.
For sure.
But yeah, so that's, then I went to 3 cities so far. I have one more city to go to this summer. And
where'd you go?
Yeah.
I went to Regina first, which was lovely. I've never been there before. Didn't have any expectations going in. Had a great time.
Nice.
It felt like Fringe summer camp. Like,
that sounds like fun.
Yeah, because all the venues are so close together. You're just constantly running into people from the other shows and flyering next to them, and you just like get a chance to chat with people.
Oh, nice.
And then I went to Hamilton. The Hammer. And Hamilton was harder, not for any reasons that had to do with the organization of the festival. That was great. But I think that I just overexerted myself, got exhausted, was like eating badly and just feeling kind of crappy the whole time. And
were you based here and doing your show over there?
Yeah, and I was still like working my day job while going over. Like,
what's your day job?
I work at a community center, doing like, I work in the access and inclusion department and do programming and track grants and stuff like that.
Perfect.
It's fun. Yeah, it's a nice way. Like, it's separate enough from the rest of my life that I don't feel like I'm constantly work.
Right.
But also it's enough common ground of like, lots of arts things and community-based stuff. So it feels like also I am interested in what I'm doing.
Yeah, you feel nice. Satisfied. That you're helping people.
Yeah, but it is also, it's hard to go to a 40-hour-a-week job and then go do a Fringe.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
That takes you an hour to get there and an hour to get back at the best of times.
Yeah, I was going to say, in good traffic.
Yes. Well, we ended up going quite early any day we could just to get, just to avoid the traffic. But then you're just like kind of hanging out there for hours. You don't have a home base there.
Right.
You're just going from coffee shop to coffee shop. Like, please don't make me leave.
We should have told. Are you vegetarian?
Yes.
No.
Never mind. Don't worry about
that.
Go
Okay. Oh, we'll never find out. But also, I unrelated anecdote to the arts part. But I have like slowly realized that I can't have gluten. I'm not sure if it's celiac yet or not. But I think I was still kind of in denial while on tour. So I was just like eating more than I should have in Hamilton and just feeling bad the whole time. And that'll do a number on your mood.
For sure.
And also I was, again, trying to avoid reviews, but it's a weird thing. I'm still trying to figure out what the healthiest relationship to reviews is, because also completely not reading them, you're in this weird, like, Schrodinger's box of, like, I know they're out there. Are they good? Are they bad? Everyone else knows. Yeah. And so you kind of feel like everyone you're hanging out with knows, and they're just not telling me, probably because they're bad. Right. And I'm like, so halfway through, I was like, should I just read them? I don't friggin' know.
Did you?
Not during the run. I would think after.
After, like, but also, like, I think, I don't know. I'm still, like, trying to figure out what's the healthiest way. Like, because absolutely just not even knowing if they're good or not also felt really weird and felt like
some people like to use them because if you get a good pull quote, then it'll help you promote the show or whatever.
I got, Tyra Sweet.
Yes.
Lovely human being, now a host on YTV.
I know, that's crazy. Good for her.
I know. It's like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, yes, perfect. Exactly.
Yes.
But she did a lot of, she helped me out with a lot of PR this summer, like kept an eye out for reviews while I was in those cities so that she could post them and I could just sort of stay off social media.
And so if there's a good pull quote, she could take it.
I don't have to wait till after the festival to put it up. She can put it up immediately.
Smart.
But again, I'm just like, being in the dark about them also felt weird, so I'm still sort of figuring out. Here's the thing, I actually, like, I'm not one of those performers who's like, critics are parasites, like, they're like, reviews. I do believe in criticism.
Like, people need to know what to go see. Like,
well, and also I just think a well-written review can be amazing. Like, I've learned about movies and theater pieces from reviews. I think that's what a good review can do, is actually not just like tear something down or promote it, but can help you see cool things in it you wouldn't have seen otherwise because that person has seen more theater. So they can point out, look, this scene is doing this cool thing you didn't even realize it was doing.
Right.
And I'll be like, awesome, I'm going to go see that again to notice it. So I love criticism, and I wish that it didn't affect me, but it really will bum me out. Even if it's good, it'll just like throw. I don't know. My brain can't handle it.
No, it's a weird thing to put yourself out there and be like, guys, what do you think? Like, write me a little write-up about it.
Do you like? Like, I always, I kept doing this motion of, like, mime reaching into my heart, like, reaching into my chest, pulling out my heart, and showing it to people and being like, do you like it?
Yeah. And people are like, God!
It's me! Especially with a one-person show, there's no other excuse.
Yeah.
You can't be like, oh, they probably just didn't like this other actor, or they probably didn't like the writing. I wrote it as well.
Yeah, it's all on you.
And so that yeah. Well, let's face it.
If I was just standing behind my microphone the whole time, none of this would have happened.
Then I'll never get hurt again. So I also, like, a weird thing I had to stop myself from doing is running away right after the show. Because I'm so bad at doing that at improv shows. Like, I will finish my show and boot it out of there.
And why is that? Is that because you're, like,
avoiding
busy, or is it because you're
avoiding criticism? Like, I'm so worried if I stay around, then I'll, like, see in people's eyes that they didn't like the scene I did. That they'll, like, have you ever been, like, you exit with another person that was in the show, somebody comes up to them, says, good job, looks at you and goes, hi, and leaves.
More in stand-up than anything else.
Yeah. Stand-up.
You were great, you were so good. Hey.
You were also there. Bye. And you're like, that hurt real bad.
And you.
Yeah, you see them clock you.
I was on the show too.
You see them recognize you, and then decide not to say anything. So I was running away right after this show. Like, I would, do the curtain call speech, be like, go see other shows, thank you for coming, blah, blah, blah. But then I would just, like, boot it to go get changed and take down my set and stuff. And, of course, like, by the time I leave the theater 15 minutes later, everyone's gone.
Yeah.
So, and I felt, because of that, I felt like, well, I'm not reading reviews, I'm not talking to my audience.
Not getting any feedback.
I really am not connected to how anyone is feeling about this show.
Right.
So what I did, and this sounds very capitalistic, it also is, I started selling buttons after the show. But it forced me to stay around and talk to people, like, because I think a lot of audience members would like to say something but are shy.
Yeah.
And so if they have a little a reason they can come up, like, oh, I'm just buying a button. Also, I liked the show. Or also, I have a question about the show or something. So I started doing that, and I did find, because my show does have a lot to do with anxiety, that that people who did seem a little more quiet, a little more timid, were more likely to come up and say like, "Oh, that reminds me of me in high school," or something.
And then quickly run away.
And they'd be like, "Goodbye forever.
Thank you so much."
And just hear them like me screaming down the street of Hamilton.
I did it.
But yeah, so that helped a bit. But again, yeah, Hamilton was hard just because I wasn't feeling well. I was there. I don't know how gross you like to get on this show, because I can tell you a mildly gross story.
We could go gross.
Yeah, we could go gross. Like
So
diarrhea gross?
yeah. So on the last day of Hamilton Fringe, right up until my show, I was just like running to the bathroom constantly, because again, I'd probably eaten some gluten and was in denial that I can't have gluten, and was just like feeling bad, taking all these ginger pills to try and sort out my stomach, and then finally was like, okay, I was feeling better enough that I'm going to do the show. It's going to be fine. This is my last show here. It's an hour long. I'll be okay. Oh, no. I'll you know what? I'm going to just put out there, I do not shit myself in this story. So.
Anxiety. I was just going to have to leave halfway through a show to take a shit.
I was worried. I was like, what will happen? I can't just leave the show. I don't exit the stage at any point. So I get on stage. I'm doing the show. It's like, it's a weird audience, not because they're not laughing, but they're just, they've spaced themselves in the auditorium quite weird. Almost everyone else is like 4 rows back, except for 2 people front row center.
We won't hear any bowel movements.
We'll hear any subtle farts. It was like, I think a mother-daughter. They were like about that age. And again, they seemed to be liking the show. They were smiling, laughing, but every once in a while they just like whisper something to each other. Like,
I think she's hot.
And
did you smell that?
Did you smell that fart? So my first thought whenever I see anyone in the audience whisper is, my thigh's down. So I subtly waited till a point in the show in which I like have to look down anyways. Took a look and was like, nope, it is not. I'm fine. They're just chatty with each other. Right. That's fine. But then also that I was getting, it's hot in most theaters in the summer. Hamilton was brutally hot, and I'm wearing a hoodie in my show because I picked the costume. It's my fault. So I'm sweating. Like I can feel, I can feel sweat like running down my arms and my legs. And then again, they keep whispering to each other.
Oh no.
And then I like feel, I can't believe I'm telling this story. I feel like there's something in my pants. Oh, God. I'm like, remember, I told you guys I don't shit myself.
I know, but you could have lied.
Oh, wouldn't that be
You tricked us into this. It's a poo story now.
Every podcast I go on, I trick them into letting me tell a poo story. But the feeling like, when there's like a sock stuck to the inside of your pants because of static or something, like from the laundry. It felt like that, but I was like, no, that can't be that, because I've been wearing these pants all week.
Toilet paper.
It turned out it was nothing. It was just, I think, the sweat running down the inside. It felt, but all of a sudden I was like, am I shitting myself? Am I currently, without feeling it, because I'm so sick at this point, like, am I just really shitting myself without even noticing?
Oh my God.
And so I keep trying to find places in the show where I can sit down and just feel the inside of my pant leg to be like, does that feel like shit in there? Does that feel like I am shitting? I wasn't. It was all just paranoia, literally caused by an upset stomach and 2 people whispering in the audience.
Anxiety, baby.
And fully 10 minutes of that show, thank God I was like, I knew it so well I was running on autopilot, but I was not thinking about, who knows how bad that 10 minutes of performance was, because that entire time I'm like, telling these heartfelt stories from childhood, and inside I'm like, am I shitting my pants, right?
Fascinating the brain is capable of doing that, though.
It's
like
wild.
You're saying something and it's meaningful and it's emotional, but in the background you're like, there's shit running down my leg for sure. It's for sure diarrhea leaking down there.
And again, I became pretty convinced, like, no, I'm not. Like, I would know. But I still wasn't sure until I got to the bathroom after the show. I was like, I
knew it!
Didn't, like, gold star for Grace didn't shit herself.
Oh my God. Man. Where's that review?
Yeah.
And then she bravely didn't shit her pants.
A friend of mine said that I should put up, like, in the show's content warnings, like, some swearing, some sexual mention. Performer may shit herself.
At any moment.
Any moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the kind of weird anxiety thoughts that happen.
Interesting. Wow. And I think it's a nice lead into the question that we often ask, which might have come up via the discussion about anxiety that sort of sprinkled the whole chat we've had so far. Is there something that you struggle with in particular in your art form? Like, I mean, the show's called The Constant Struggle, so we're usually like,
I'm shocked this has come up.
I know, at this point in the conversation.
I struggle really badly with comparing myself to other people, which I'm sure...
Comparisonitis.
Yeah.
Comparisonitis really mixes real bad with imposter syndrome. It's
anxiety.
It's something like I've worked on a lot to get rid of, and it's better, but oh boy, when it rears its ugly head, you can't think it away. You can't like journal it away.
No.
It's like...
It doesn't help that we're in like this sort of social media dependent like world where it's like every single day you're seeing everybody do everything and no big deal, I just landed the job of your dreams. You know?
Remember this audition you auditioned for, or this commercial you auditioned for? I got it.
You're like, great.
I liken it to like it's like you're walking down the street looking at pleasant buildings and stuff like that. Like, you know, when you're scrolling through Instagram, you're just like, oh, somebody's cat, that's nice. Oh, somebody had a nice family dinner, that's... And then every once in a while, you're just walking down this nice street looking at things, and somebody punches you in the face.
Oh, come on!
You're
Look at my house!
I wasn't expecting that, and I wasn't ready. Couldn't even tense myself to accept the
and it can make you feel so shit, like so quick.
Yeah, and you're also like... Again, you don't want to feel that.
No.
You want to be happy for your colleagues. You want to be happy for your friends. But and you don't even know which ones will hit you. Like, sometimes I'll see somebody got a thing, and I'll be like, good for them. Like, I literally, no feelings of jealousy, no comparison.
Right.
And then other times, seemingly, like, with no particular difference between them, I'll just be like, I'm going to go cry for an hour.
Right. It'll be unrelated. It'll be like something else your brain is processing at that time.
It could be like the mood you're in at the time, you know, like the painful shit you might have just taken.
I'm already feeling vulnerable.
There was rogue gluten at some point.
Yeah. I think, like, actually, an interesting thing that's come up in just me kind of talking this out with people is that I feel like I get especially jealous of people who seem...
podcasts? I know.
Oh my god, how do I get one? Somebody give me a podcast. I'm constantly putting out on... You can just do... I'm constantly putting out on Twitter, like, we'll be on your podcast. Please have me. If anyone's listening to this. I'll give the background to this before saying what these people that I'm jealous of, because it does sound mean. But I think I have one of my anxieties is feeling like that I don't have enough like talent or skill for people to want me around solely for that. They'll want me around because I'm responsible and I show up on time. Yeah. So I really hang on to those things. Feeling like of being the punctual one, being the one who did their homework, being the one who came with cookies for everyone, because I feel like that's people are not keeping me around because I bring enough like talent, but they're keeping me around because I'm not trouble to keep around. Like I'm like almost like I can just slide under the radar and be like, no one knew I was in this show, but I was. And we didn't notice she was in the show because she was never late.
Right. She didn't cause any problems at all.
Exactly. The best thing about Grace is she caused no problems.
Right.
And
that's great.
It is.
Those are all good things that you're doing.
And that's the thing is the other day my therapist said to me, you do all the right things but for the wrong reasons. And I was like, I feel exposed. And
because it's a good thing, but if that's why you think that's the only reason why being late one day will get me kicked out because that was the only. So because of that, I feel especially sensitive to people who I know are maybe a little messier in their lives. I'm sorry, I hard agree with.
Oh, good. And because because I even am like so mad at them for being late to a rehearsal one day, but because to me that just proves this fear I have that other people have enough talent that they can be late sometimes and be messy human beings, and people will like their work enough to still work with them. Yeah. And in my mind, I'm like, well, I couldn't.
I work so fucking hard. Yeah.
Like if I showed up late as many times as they did, I would get kicked out of this show.
Right. Or if I had like a negative attitude, or if I showed up one day and Yeah,
no,
sure.
but those people are carrying. Those are bad marks against them. So.
Well, part of me is like also has to wonder, because oftentimes I have that impression of them from maybe one interaction or maybe one project I work. I always have to remind myself, like, you don't know what they were like on this other project. You don't know, like, you know.
It could be one-offs and stuff like that.
Yeah, it could have been they were going through a hard time when I worked with them. Like, I'm really trying to kind of practice more empathy in that way, that, like, not assume they're just doing that because they know they can get away with it, but they, like, again, that they have shit going on.
Or bad management. Time management.
Yeah,
skills.
or maybe they're
it's hard.
And maybe they're just still working on that aspect of their professional kind of demeanor.
Yeah, and especially in this business where it's certainly not like there's never going to be like, this is fair because you've been on time so many times, therefore you get this part. No, it's always like, you know, oh well, I saw this person last night and I needed somebody last minute and she was there, so I gave it to her. There was no way you could plan that kind of thing.
No one knows that Kate McKinnon got on SNL because she was on time for every audition.
And brought cookies.
Yeah, brought cookies for everyone.
Lauren's favorite cookies.
And they were all late for lunch, so they were very pleased. Right. But it's a thing that I'm not, you know, I don't feel good about because you don't want to feel jealous. It's not a nice feeling, and I'm working on it. But I do waste a lot of, I think, mental energy.
I understand. Yeah, and it's stuff you can. Yeah, that sounds definitely like stuff I would be writing in my CBT journal. Like, oh, the other thing, this person got a thing that I wanted. It's like you weren't even like you're in two different worlds. You know what I mean? Like of consideration. It's not about one thing, but you put it on yourself. Like, oh, it was between her and me, you know? And it's like, oh, there's millions of people.
Exactly.
Yeah, and there's tons of people who are trying to get the same thing or trying to do the same thing, and it's impossible to... Yeah.
People aren't thinking about it the same way you are. They're not going like, I checked the list of every improviser in Toronto who is secretly interested in this show but has never actually expressed it. Right. That's the thing I also have to remind myself is that... a lot of the things I secretly want, I never told that producer I wanted to be on that show.
I think that's something that women in particular, oh my God, this just lit up. I'm so sorry. It's like, what is happening down there?
You're very popular.
No, it's the same person. She obviously has a problem with me. Anyway, no, that's anxiety. Anyway, so I think that might be a thing with women in general as well, because like I'll often have conversations with people. I want to say like newer improvisers, especially because that's sort of the people I deal with the most, teaching.
Not just like showing up at level 8 parties like, hey guys,
why are you guys always rookies? I don't understand.
But it's a lot of like, oh, how do I get on this show? And it's like, well, did you ask the person? And they're like, I don't know if I feel right. But it's like, no, you have to, because everybody else is doing it. Yeah. And like certainly like of all the people, as somebody who has produced shows, of all the shows that I produce, like you wouldn't believe how many times men over women ask to be on the show. Like,
oh my God,
women never ask to be on the show. Men are always like, hey, can I do it? It's like you've never seen the show before. I don't even know who you are.
You've taken one dropping class.
Exactly. Like I don't know you, and you've reached out to me.
Yeah,
but, like,
it's all right.
Exactly. But women.
Can I go do this?
Yeah. Sometimes women have to be like given permission. Be like, no, you can talk to this. More times than not, the producer is probably like, hey, I need an improviser and I don't know who to ask, right? If you're just like, can I do it? They'd be like, yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah. Or even they'll keep you in the back of their mind for next time. Yeah. Like almost never have I actually been told no by a producer. Like it's only me talking myself out of approaching a show or overworking myself, so I actually then don't leave myself enough time to go to a show and introduce myself and blah-de-blah-de-blah.
The whole process.
Yeah.
There's a lot of anxiety in there, Grace.
Oh yeah, this feels like therapy.
We can't fix anything. We can just put you on band.
This is the not able to fix you band cast.
The one that we have to give in every improv class too.
Yeah. Oh well.
That's good. We're not.
But that's something you could teach the improv kids. Like, get that out there, especially for the women students.
Right.
Like, you have to put yourself out there and tell them that you want to be in shows.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, it's like you do a little improv of like practice going up to a
yeah.
producer.
Oh my God. It's like, what does that look like? Well, here's a scene.
Yeah. Let's run a scenario. This is how it might go.
Yeah.
Can I please do your improv show? No, fuck you.
You're a bad person and I hate you now.
Only if you're there on time. Perfect.
But yeah, I have started like, taking those shots more and just trying to apply for stuff. And also realize, like, a thing I wish someone had told me way earlier is that most of the time when you first apply for a thing, yes, you will be underqualified for it. And that's okay.
Yeah.
No one, like, you might not get it, but no one's like, you are now blacklisted forever applying for this thing.
Interesting. There's a lot of that. There's a history of that too in your stories of like, you're not shunned once you do a thing, once you apply for a thing. You can try. If at first you don't succeed.
Yeah, like when I was in academia, when I was teaching a class, I took a class to see a show at SummerWorks.
Okay.
And we were doing a little sort of informal talk back with one of the actors in it, who I happen to know because he was also doing his PhD. Gotcha. And then he called over, I forget if it was the playwright or one of the producers, just somebody he knew from working on that show as well. Was like, oh, come talk to this class. That guy came over, ended up being somebody on the like Ontario Arts Council or something like that, who then answered so many questions about applying for grants.
Right.
And I was just like shoving kids out of the way, like, I have questions about this. But he said, it's okay to apply before you're ready because that just puts you on our radar. Like, we know who you are, even if we can't give it to you this year. We just know that you're there.
You exist.
Yeah, and that just puts you on our radar to see how your applications develop over the years, and just like it helps you practice writing them.
Sure.
Like, that's the thing I did. I was always waiting for the project I was ready on, realizing I should have been practicing writing
That's
these.
a good call, yeah.
Yeah, applications.
That's smart.
Yeah. And yeah, for the most part, as long as you are, again, polite and applying for something you are at least in the realm of, no one's gonna come to your house and be like, you're banned from theater and comedy forever applying for this.
It is about you know, us with anxiety, that we fear the worst, like in it, you know, when it's like it's just a grant. You'll be fine. Yeah.
Like, the amount of times every day as an adult, I think I don't want anyone to yell at me, like I'm a child.
Oh God, it's true.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Please no.
Yeah, sometimes they won't go
like
to like
ordering
a
food. Like, oh, I gotta get my order down pat, or else some guy in the line behind me says, "Oh, why don't you know what Big Mac you're getting?" Or,
and then you'll cry, and it's gonna be embarrassing.
Like I don't like going to a Circle K near my house because I know they're gonna try to upsell me. And I don't want to have to, you know.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't have to fucking deal with that. I just want to get my chocolate bar out of here, you know.
It's so funny. Like, I avoid this coffee shop near my house. I avoided them for a solid 6 months because I had an awkward encounter one day with a new person when I went and ordered my thing I always order. But I think it's like it's not a super popular item on it's like a yogurt and fruit bowl.
Okay.
But it's called on the menu, it's just like muesli.
Right.
So I went in, ordered that, and she just looked at me like I just said pure nonsense. It was like, you'll have the what? And I was like,
oh no.
I became suddenly like, maybe it's never been on the menu. Like, maybe.
What did I just say?
And so I just like pointed. Am I currently pooping myself? I pointed at the menu. I was like, it's right. It's behind you. And she was like, looked at the menu. Was like, the what? And I was like, I was getting so. I wanted to be like, abort. I'll go somewhere else. It's fine.
Disappear.
Yeah,
like, anxiety smoke pods need to exist.
They sure do, and they need to transport you safely back to your bed.
Under the blanket.
Yeah. Finally, like, another staff member came over and was like, said to me, "What do you want?" I was like, I remember being like, I just want muesli, and he was like, said to the new person, like, yeah, here it is on the cash.
And she went.
And that's when I learned that we all have
We're
anxiety.
all in it.
But it's weird, the amount of things we talk ourselves out of that are actually, like, fine or might have been a great opportunity.
Yeah, I guess it's one of these things where you just have to keep reminding yourself to be present and turn off that bad voice that tells you this is how it's going to go. And it's like, it has no idea. It has no idea.
Like, I think the only way we should limit ourselves in what we kind of, you know, apply for or put ourselves out there, and just is in literally, like, how much time and energy do you have in the week?
Right.
Because obviously you can't apply for everything.
Right.
You do have to do a bit of like, what am I most likely to get?
Yeah.
But you can't. You could talk yourself out of doing anything if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
And as much as staying in bed forever sounds nice,
no, you get achy.
You get achy, and the bed, it starts to smell bad.
Yeah.
At least get a shower.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least run the sheets through the washer every once in a while.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Good advice. Do you have any projects or anything coming up that you would like to let the 12
viewers
listeners?
A show that I help produce feels like a strong word. There's but like am part of is Super Hot Date Night, which has just for the month of September become a monthly show at Bad Dog Theater. And maybe if that went well when you're listening to this, it will still be a monthly show. So
check this show
come on.
out.
It's a really fun show. We get like dating stories from the audience and then improvise them.
Oh my god.
Come to the show. Yeah. It's great. For Saturday and maybe onwards, every Friday night at 9:30.
Oh, great.
I'm also I have a silly cat video online called the series is called Things with Cats. This video is called Cooking with Cats. It's like a cooking show about how to cook cats around.
I did a similar thing.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna show you. We used to have a podcast, web series called Cat Chats.
Oh, amazing. I would like to see that. And we just filmed and like are almost done editing the second episode of this. This one is Manicures with Cats.
Oh, cute.
And that directed by Lee Cameron of Generally Hospital as well, and Second City Main Stage and a million things.
She's great.
So that will be coming out soon. Look out for that. Otherwise, I'm just writing some stuff. Finishing my Fringe tour, going to Kelowna later this month. Fun. Yes, I've never been there before, so that'll be nice. And just trying to get enough sleep. You know.
And stay hydrated.
Oh my goodness, I forget to drink water so often.
Finish my last.
It's underrated too. A good drink of water. Oh,
I think that I was dehydrated through all of high school. Like I'm pretty.
Probably.
I had a headache the whole time.
I used to get really every once in a while, and I'd be
Do
like,
you guys,
what's this about?
We could take this off the pod, but do you ever like take a big gulp of water and then like sweat immediately? Like your body was going, oh god, I was holding this in. Thank you, finally.
Yeah, we thought we were gonna need that.
Oh, really?
You should see a doctor.
All right.
Yeah, don't look at WebMD.
No, it was like, you've got several cancers.
No. Oh, God. Jeez, you took it so dark.
That's several. You have every cancer.
All of the cancers.
Okay, I'm very obsessed with Succession. If I wanted to plug something that I have no involvement in, you should all be watching Succession. It's a very good show.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have Crave now, so I can watch HBO things as soon as they come out.
Have you watched Billions?
I haven't watched Billions yet, should I?
Such a good show. Yeah.
Okay.
That first Barry.
Oh, yeah. Well,
good.
yeah. Yeah. Am I weirdly attracted to him?
I love Bill
that
Hader.
show?
I'm sorry. Not just in that show, but for sure in that show.
And Trainwreck is where I also fell in love with him.
Stefan.
Stefan's great.
But yeah, he's great. Oh, Barry's some of the weird little observations.
He
about...
like hasn't watched it. I keep trying to get it.
I won't do spoilers, but some of the weird little
just
observations.
Do 1 month of Crave for free.
Yeah, I know.
You can watch the whole thing.
We're gonna plan the month. It'll be during winter. Sometime.
Yeah. Right. Plus, if you don't get the like extra HBO and movies package, it's like $10 a month or something like that. But yeah, some of the weird little observations about like the theater world.
Oh my god, it's so on point. Yeah.
Like when what was it? Barry and Sally. They're like, oh, we're gonna do a production of Zoo Story, but switch roles every night. And then the other character who's not a theater person is just like, why?
Yeah.
And they don't have any, like, you just see that no one has ever asked them that before. And it reminded me of so many terrible theater projects I did when I was younger where I made them needlessly complicated. I'd be like, let's have a different cast every night. And no one just asked me why.
Why?
And then I'd be mid-production be like, this was a terrible idea.
Why didn't someone ask me why?
Why didn't anyone just be like, please.
No, I don't want to.
Don't make this hard.
Just stop.
Yeah.
Get out of theater.
Yeah, then they would have been like, you're banned from theater. We hate you forever. We're telling your parents.
And you're like, oh, finally, I knew it.
I knew it.
I just needed permission to get thrown out.
But is the fear like that? Is the fear like I'll have to go back home and I'll have to
from our education system. from the get-go. It's programmed in. If you're wrong, you're bad.
Yeah, and I think you put things like kind of like, oh, if something about it is bad, it's all bad. And if
Oh yeah, it's a dichotomy. Yeah. There's no gray.
I think
either good or bad.
Oh, man.
I remember, like, I'll tell you why my my therapist told me that I do all the right things for the wrong reasons. And I hope if she's ever listening to this, know that she's actually saying this in much more nuanced phrasing than I'm about to, and she's amazing. But we were talking about a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset.
Okay.
And the idea that growth is like, even if you fail at something, you're like, oh, I can still get better at this, though. Yeah. Maybe I'm not good enough yet, but I will be. Whereas fixed is like, well, I failed, so I'm just inherently bad, I guess.
I've heard that one before.
and she's like, here's the thing, you work so hard, like you are constantly trying to improve. So that's like, you're doing the actions of a growth mindset, but actually they're to stave off the fears of a fixed mindset, because you're actually like afraid that you are just inherently bad,
right?
And so you're trying to stave that off by being like taking another class, signing up for another thing, like trying
to do all the things.
Yeah, because I don't want the fixed mindset to be true,
but it isn't.
But and it's one of those things, like, I intellectually do not believe that's true. I really do believe that I think anyone can get pretty good at anything if they put in enough time.
Right.
Obviously some people are inherent, like initially better or worse, like have a bit of a knack for something. But I do believe, I've seen people who started off as terrible actors, like not funny at all, become really great because they worked so hard. Right. But yeah, I think, sometimes you do have that back of the mind fear of like, but what if I'm the exception? So when she said that, I was like, oh, I feel, yep.
You see right through me. Cut to the core.
Yeah. Just like, as I swirl my goblet of sherry, just like, well. I see my soul has been read. Yeah, you finally have earned your pay. And she's like, well, you've been coming to me for 2 years, so. Finally.
I love how into the conversation your kid is.
I didn't notice that.
My cat therapist.
She likes listening to people talk. Like when Leet's practicing singing, she'll just kind of just like listen. She also we just got this chair, and it's hers. She loves it. She especially likes this blanket because I think she feels like you can't see her. She's on it. It's camouflage.
Awesome. She's a smart kitty.
Yeah, she's so smart and pretty. I'm trying to make her internet famous. She has her own Instagram.
Cute.
I can't get her above 150 followers. But I would love to monetize. If I can just like
that cat.
Lil Bub style live off my cat. Would love to.
You just have to remove the teeth so that her tongue sticks out all the time, right?
I don't want to go full grumpy cat style. I feel like that cat was a little exploited.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, Grumpy Cat is a proud woman and also dead. R.I.P. Grumpy Cat. She's sleepy.
All right. This was lovely. Thank you for Grace. Grace.
This is the Puncat wordplay. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. This is fun.
Yay! And all the best in your future project.
Thank you, and yours as well.
Thanks. What do you have to say, Nick? You look like you're.
No,
I look like a pencil.
No, that was good. That was a enjoyable ride.
Want to say struggle on with us?
Struggle on.
Struggle on.
Struggle on.
Yay.
Oh, the audience.
Polite clap.
Ending with the golf clap that we started.
Well, that was great.
Yeah, what an awesome interview.
Yay. I know.
I was stuck between interview and episode. I said interview.
Intersode
with Grace Smith.
Enjoy Intersode.
Be sure to check out our page, because we're going to show you all of Grace's social media information so you could follow her and like all of her awesome projects. All of her awesome projects.
There you go.
There it is. And you could also follow us.
What?
I know, us. We've got Twitter @StrugglePod, Instagram, also at StrugglePod.
Which we gotta post some photos on.
Yeah,
that.
we're gonna you gotta send me that photo of us and Grace, and I hope some of her cats are in there, at least one.
Maybe. I don't know, maybe
we'll have to see.
But yeah,
and you can also follow us on Twitter at the Constant Struggle Podcast. We'll also have a discussion post about this episode, so if there was anything that resonated in this episode that you want to comment on, feel free to comment. Let's chat about the episode.
Wait, where does that happen at?
On Facebook, in the Facebook group. It's a brand new group. Well, brand new as of 2 episodes ago.
All right.
And you can just chat about what you liked, what you had questions about. If you want to reach out to Grace specifically and have her answer, maybe she will. Mm-hmm. But I can't promise anything because she lives her own life. Yay!
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
Well, thanks so much for listening, and
struggle on.
Struggle on. I don't know why I said it that way.
No.